Good evening, Rotarians, Rotractors, friends, and our guests. Let me call this fellowship to attention. And today we are in the hands of our judges. As you know, this is the month of judges. So we are in the hands of our judge, David Baraka. Please, David Baraka, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Augustus. Dear friends, Rotarians, and guests on call this evening, the group in charge of today's fellowship is a team comprised of past presidents of the Rotary Club of Muyenga, and I take honor to be leading the team. We are going to start off with Rotary norms, and we shall have President Jane Kabale to take us through the norms, rather to take us through the grace.
Thank you, Past President David. Fellow Rotarians, Rotaractors, and guests, let us humble ourselves for the grace. O Lord and giver of all good things, we ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each one of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and people. Bless our fellowship today. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, President Jane. The loyal toast is by President Joseph Kalalinkusa.
Thank you, Rotarian President Baraka. Wherever you are, good evening, and please rise for the loyal toast. Let us toast to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda.
Republic of Uganda.
The forward.
Thank you, Jaja. Fellow Rotarians, let us kindly recite the forward test together. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair at all concerns? Third, will it bring goodwill and better friendship? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, President Stephen. And back to you, President Augustus. President Augustus, are you there?
Yeah, very well there.
Yeah, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Judge Daudi. Fellow Rotarians, we want to thank you so much for attending the mega fellowship. Last Wednesday, it was something which ushered us, all of us, into this year. The whole district is thankful for that. Two, we will want to welcome our guests, and we shall ask Rotarian Mugume to read their names very, very quickly. I will give them just 2 minutes. We thank, of course, our President, Hanifa, and I thank all the members of RCM who escorted our only AG Hanifa to Rotary Club of Wandegea, Kampala. It was wonderful. We had a total of 15 RCM members. Thank you so much for that, Tsunami. We have now revived Tsunami. Thank you so much, members. And then we have our own Beatrice Rugalambi, and I want to thank members for the response. We shall collect all these to one basket, and then we assist our colleague. Lastly, we have our Rotaract Club of Kampala North, which we are going to work with on the malaria project, and we shall be asking for support and also for your time to do this. We want to do something on malaria program also. Remember, we have another project on malaria. So I will ask Rotarian Alex Mugume, very, very quickly, I asked permission from Judge Dawood Baraka, and we give you 2 minutes to welcome our guests by reading the name and where the person comes from, so that we go to our guest speaker. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much, President. Our guests tonight, we are happy to be graced with the following guests tonight. Professor Nawangwe, Vice Chancellor, Makerere University. Virunji, Managing Director of Movit Group of Companies. Dr. Atkunda Angela from Murago Hospital. Susan Kobugabe, Professor Asingwe from also Makerere University. Dora Chohirwe from Ministry of Justice. Alfred Bujingo, Express Movers and Logistics. Gerard Tumusime Bazira, an advocate. Majid from Defenders. Gloria Murisa, Pauline Richirande, Praise Muhumza, Collins Babirukamu from NITA, he's the CEO of NITA. Waswa Francis from Makerere University. Nelson Impaji, Frederick Mumuviru, a consultant. Rauben Biaruhanga from Kajan's Clays. Saleh Kahunde, Opportunity Bank. Nicholas Charigonza, an advocate. Peter Netua, a banker. President, I'm done. Have I been audible enough?
Yeah, thank you very much. You are audible.
Yes.
Thank you very much for our guests, and please continue coming. Muyenga is the best club that you can visit and eventually join. So our members, tonight we have our guest speaker, and I would like now to call upon our own Rotarian President AG, Dr. PK, to please introduce our guest.
Thank you very much, President. Our guest tonight is one of Uganda's most illustrious sons. His name is Ernest Rubondo. He's the Executive Director, Petroleum Authority of Uganda. He completed postgraduate studies in petroleum reservoir geology at the Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine in London in 1990, and worked briefly with the Scott Pickford PLC in the United Kingdom. He returned to Uganda to participate in the field data acquisition as part of the petroleum exploration effort in the country. President Ernest Rubondo held the position of Commissioner for the Petroleum Exploration and Production Department between 2008 and 2014, and was also Director of Petroleum, both in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Uganda. He's been a member and continues to be a member in the sector. He is also a participant, an active one, in the negotiations for production sharing agreements between government and oil companies for petroleum licenses in the country. He's chaired the working group which formulated
Hello, President PK.
In Uganda's oil and gas sector, and has commenced its implementation and continues to oversee all this process, the regulation, especially of its development. He was appointed to lead the country's newly created Petroleum Authority of Uganda since 2016, and still is. He's the chairman of the board of Uganda section of the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, which is the Society of Petroleum Engineers and the Geological Society of Uganda. He was recognized for his contribution to the discovery of oil by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda in 2006. He's a recipient of the Global Pacific Award for distinguished contribution to the African oil and gas industry. in 2007. He was awarded the Narubale Medal in recognition of the contributions towards the development of Uganda's oil and gas in 2016. He was a member of government of Uganda's team that negotiated the agreements for the East African crude oil pipeline. These agreements included the intergovernmental agreement, the host government agreement, the tariff and transportation agreement, and the shareholders agreement. President Augustus, it's now my singular pleasure and honor to introduce Ernest Rubondo, who at one time was assistant governor in Rotary. You are welcome, Ernest Rubondo, to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. President of the Rotary Club of Muyenga, the Rotarians of the Rotary Club of Muyenga, and those from the visitors, as I heard the president saying, ladies and gentlemen, and I must start by thanking Dr. Chimbowa for that very kind introduction. It makes me a little bit uneasy of what now I can say, having been introduced like that. First of all, I would like to thank the Rotary Club of Muyenga for inviting me to speak to this club on a subject that is very dear to my heart and has been, I think, a very big part of my life. It's interesting to see where it has reached, and I'm glad to share this with the audience this evening. In doing so, I have invited one of my colleagues in the oil and gas sector, specifically the one who is responsible for how Ugandans participate in the oil and gas sector. Because when we looked through our staff at the authority, her department was the most linked to the subject that you invited me to speak on. I know she is called Miss Betty Namubiru. I don't know, man. Betty, can you show yourself? Betty, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Can you give the audience? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's Betty Namubiru. We will be doing the presentation together. We also have Moses Ekunu, who is actually linking the Petroleum Authority of Uganda to the Rotary Club of Muyenga during the preparations and also during this time that we are online. Moses, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Presentation is going to go as follows. Please share. I have a small outline of this presentation. I will introduce the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. I will then share the status of Uganda's oil and gas sector. I will then say something about the key objectives of regulation. And then I will say something about the opportunities and challenges, opportunities especially because that is the topic that you asked me to speak about. I am sorry, I'm going to meander a bit with the beginning because I thought it would be easier to understand the opportunities and challenges when you had a bit of where the sector is. Then I'll conclude. So by way of introduction, I think it's important that this principle is well understood as we go forward, the aspect of upstream, midstream, and downstream. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, upstream petroleum refers to looking for, finding, and producing petroleum. That is petrol, diesel, jet fuel, and all those commodities that we know come out of petroleum. So if you can remember that in the upstream and midstream, you deal with petroleum commodities, those which are not ready for use. Then in the downstream, you deal with commodities. That would be a very good distinction. The second introductory part I would like to say is how the oil and gas sector in Uganda is managed. And it has three components. It has mineral development, regarding oil, investment promotion for oil, and its licenses coming into the country. And upstream industry comply to the laws of Uganda, work in line with the agreements that have been signed, but also in line with international best practice. So once we know there's something that is being done very well in other parts of the world, we encourage or oblige or require the companies to make sure that Uganda also gets that. On the third entity is the Uganda National Oil Company, and the company's role is to do business. It moves for purposes. It's supposed to be like it's supposed to be like Sinok, Total, Ama Energy, and it's being built to get to that level so that maybe in future it can go to other parts of the world and also look for licenses. So those are the three arms of the oil and gas sector in Uganda, and that's how it is managed. This is best practice internationally, because actually not too many countries around the world have achieved this aspect of regulatory best practice of separating those entities. And the non-separation of those roles is one of the biggest causes of the challenges you've had in oil and gas around the world. You will then allow me to beat some kalango about the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, a very short one. The authority was established exploration, development, and production. And this came from the policy of 2008. The authority has been in existence since 2015. You agree that an institution that manners and display, people think we are rather arrogant, but don't be deceived. The intention is for the Petroleum Authority of Uganda to be a leading petroleum regulatory agency in the world. The mission of the Petroleum Authority is to regulate and monitor the petroleum sector so as to create lasting value for the Ugandan society, but also contribute to Uganda being a sound investment destination. And I can tell you those two aspects contradict is running situations where you're not making Uganda a sound investment destination, because the investors are telling you that what you're asking for is not good for us. But the Petroleum Authority struggles with those two parts of its mission. And our mandate, as I said, is to monitor and regulate the exploration, development, and production, together with the refining, gas conversion, transportation, and storage of petroleum in Uganda. We regulate those aspects. The sector, briefly, and I didn't know how useful this is, but let me say it. So far, 21 oil and gas discoveries have been made in Uganda. So there are 21 oil and gas fields. These oil and gas fields have a total 6 billion barrels of oil in place. Out of this 6 billion, current technology, and this can improve with technology improving. This is not considered a lot of gas, and it is not comparable with the millions of cubic feet that are in Tanzania or Mozambique, or trillions of cubic feet that are in Mozambique and Tanzania. Currently is for production of oil. That means oil was found, it was appraised, and they agreed to start producing it. There are 3 exploration licenses: Ama Energy Company and Oranto Petroleum, which is a Nigerian company. Oranto has 14 oil fields are being prepared for production. And these are in the hands of Sinok and Total. And the ones for exploration, I already informed you that they're in the hands of Ama Energy and Oranto. And in all these licenses, up to 20% in the exploration licenses. They implement their partnership when production has begun. So that they their current before they spend. That currently 90% of the Albertine 9% is not licensed. And, that means that there is potential in Uganda with exploration. We are also regulating the companies preparing for production. And for companies which are doing exploration, they are in, I don't have a pointer here. I don't know if I can, okay. Kanyuataba, no, please go back to the exploration. This here is the Ngasa with Oranto. It's an exploration area. Then this in purple is the Kanyuataba around the south of Ndoroko. And this is under Ngasa. So we are regulating how those companies are doing their work. Then the big ones, the production ones, they are in two major projects. One is the Tilenga project, and the other is the Kingfisher project. So all aspects to do with preparation for production are in those two projects. The Tilenga, let's go to the next slide, prepare for its production is between $4 billion and $6 billion. That's the amount of money that is going to be invested in preparing the field for production. That's before you start production. When it starts producing, it will be producing 190,000 barrels of oil per day for a 4-year plateau, then it will tail off. I'll not go into details of the infrastructure that is on the ground, but I think because the objective here is talk about the opportunities and challenges in the community, we'll have an opportunity to go into the details. But that is the Tilenga project, and what you can know about it is that that is the investment going into it. You then have the Kingfisher project, which is in both Hoima and Chikuve project. This is for production of about 40,000 barrels of oil per day for a peak period of 5 years before it tails off. And this is being operated by the Chinese National Offshore Oil Corporation. So Tilenga is operated by Total, and the Kingfisher is operated by Sinopec. The investment of Kingfisher is between $3 and $4 billion, United States dollars. The next project is the projects now for commercialization, which are for commercialization, which is in the midstream. And there are also two. There is a refinery project, which is starting a new refinery in Uganda of about 60,000 barrels of oil per day. And the investor in this is the Albertine Graben Refinery Company. And the investment in that one is going to be about $4 billion. The second one, and is going to be located in Kabale. I'll talk about it shortly. Not Kabale in Chigezi, but the Kabale in Hoima. The second project is the East African crude oil pipeline. And this is the one that will transport crude oil from Hoima through Tanzania to the port of Tanga for export. It's a big one. It has 6 pumping stations. It has 27 heating stations. And this pipe will be laying, as you can see it shown in the map. That's the length and its route. And it will be laid deep in the ground, about 1.5 meters for security and other aspects. The environmental and social impact assessments for all these projects have been done and approved. And so we are ready to go, except the one for the refinery project, which is still being undertaken, and we expect it to be concluded this year. In addition to these value addition, you have projects that are supporting infrastructure. And the support, first of all, we have the international airport in Kabale, which is the second international airport coming on. This is a 4-kilometer runaway airport, and it is being constructed by SBC, combination of Israelis and British. And that airport is actually, the runway is longer than the one of Entebbe because it is expected to receive these heavy planes, the C-130s and so on, which carry equipment. That is the airport that is coming up in Kabale. Now, this where the airport is, it is situated in an industrial park, a 29 square kilometer area. That is where the refinery is going to be based. The refinery, of course, is a $4 billion investment, $500 million investment. In the past, those are the investments that the country used to look at as very big, but these oil projects have dwarfed it, and it looks now like a small to medium project. In addition to the airport and industrial park, government has invested in building 700 kilometers of roads and 2 bridges, which are being implemented by the Uganda National Road Authority. The cost of these roads is about $900 million. And so that's being regulated by the Civil Aviation Authority, and the roads, as you know, are being done by the Uganda National Roads Authority. I will quickly take you through the key regulatory areas, but before I go to these key regulatory areas, I would like the members listening to me to be aware of the magnitude of what we are talking about. 15 years ago, the biggest projects in this country used to be roads, and they used to be between 50 and 100. If you found $150 million, that would be a big road project. Subsequently, this country did the Bujagali project, which was about $800 million. That's about 10 years ago. Most recently, about 5 years ago, the country did the Karuma project, which is closing to completion. And this project is $1.2 billion. No, $1.6 billion. So the biggest project this country has done is that Karuma at $1.65 billion. The 4 projects I've introduced to you, the smallest is the Kingfisher project with about $3 billion investment. $4 billion, and the export pipeline is $3.5 billion. This one time, we must know the resources in the country, where they are, and how easy it is to produce them. The second one is commercialization. Commercialization, those refinery and the pipeline. You stepped back, please keep on this. We have the cost monitoring. All these costs for the 2 upstream projects are going to be recovered when Uganda starts producing oil. So the aspect of ensuring that the authorities knows its costs is very important. And so cost monitoring is the third area of regulation. The third one is petroleum data management. The data related to even the pipeline and refinery, their costs will come out through the tariffs, how much you pay for the pipe and how much you pay for the petroleum products that will come out of the refinery. So even that aspect of cost monitoring is very important. Petroleum data management, data is all the information about the oil and gas in the country, and that is the researching, because in the past, you would find that in our countries, all the data was kept in the colonial master's country. And whenever these countries needed their information, they would have to go there and pay amounts of money to get it. Now the country has a petroleum data management system, and we have just put up, and environment management is critical, delicate environments, and that needs to be taken care of. Safety, given the size of these projects, the safety during construction is very important, plus the health of the workers and the people in the community. Together with security of the investments, security of the people, and those has to be maintained. The other one, the area that the Petroleum Authority also regulates. So we need to ensure that they are kept in the know, and any concerns they have are well addressed. These are both highlights, the people in the communities and even the international community. A lot of diplomacy is beginning to come into this oil and gas aspect, and those are also stakeholders. The next aspect is the opportunities. And so I am going into what I was invited to present. And this is where I'll now request that you allow national content in the Petroleum Authority of Uganda to take this forward, and I'll just come in at the end to conclude. Betty Namubiru, could you please continue?
Thank you very much, Edie, and good evening, everyone, once again. Speaking about opportunities in the oil and gas sector, we focus on what we call national content. And there are three main reasons why we regulate national content. One is to achieve in-country value creation, but also ensuring that we retain the commercial human capital development in the oil and gas related disciplines as a way of promoting national participation, but also develop the competitiveness of Ugandan enterprises to supply the oil and gas sector. So created in the Ugandan economy through 5 major aspects. The first one, if you look, how much employment can we draw from this sector, is one of the areas we look at. We look at aspects to do with capacity of people to adequate companies to supply this international sector, but also being able to supply beyond the boundaries of our country. Then how can the industry use the locally produced goods and services? And then lastly, transfer of knowledge and technology. So in all the discussions that we have in the oil and gas sector, speaking about the opportunities, we focus on these major 5 aspects: employment, capacity building, enterprise development, use of locally produced or available goods and services, and technology transfer. The main issue to note here is that national participation is not actually who is owning, is it a Ugandan, but rather benefit this country. To continue with speaking about the opportunities, I think like the ED indicated, the value chain is development. What opportunities do we see under development and which opportunities do we see under production? So here we majorly break down the projects in explore enormous opportunities all around the fair. 6 oil blocks have been put on the market to attract investors to come and explore. Those also come with opportunities. Then when we look at the development phase, where we are right now, we've had the conclusion of the key agreements, and these are leading to the launch of the oil and gas projects. What this mainly means is that at least the sector now is risk-free. We can see this is expected to last over 4 years. The central processing facilities, the storage facilities, the construction of the refinery, and of camps between 11,000 and 15,000 people that are going to occupy these camps. The construction work, we'll see over 100,000 crude export pipeline will be crossing. These people will be going there, and of course there will be a lot of need for a number of services on phase to support the different projects. This presents a huge opportunity at that local level. The construction of the necessary infrastructure, like we've already indicated, the airport, the roads, the power, and all those. Then when it comes to the production, that will be at the time when the development of the facilities that will support production will be completed. We'll see the investment, 25 years of continuous investment to ensure that the production of the oil takes place. So these key projects provide a range of opportunities that I'll try to break down in the next slides. But just on my right, these graphs, forget about the years on the x-axis. These studies have been done, were done a long time ago, but the major message we need to pick here is that at the peak of the projects, when the construction is happening, in the upstream projects where we see Tilema and Kingfisher, will require slightly over 5,000 people, and this will continue to go down. If you can look at how this slide goes down. Then in the midstream, where we will require, after the construction, just an illustration for us to realize where the opportunities are. Again, continuing with the opportunities broadly, when you look at the national context for Ugandan entities, so even within the legal framework, there is a list and surveying, environment study. So that is an opportunity that we have within our legal framework, divided into three major categories. We have the specialist services, which you can see in here. These are highly technical, I can say, like seismic studies. You realize that there are greater opportunities for participation of Ugandans. In the second circle, you will see the direct services, companies to supply. Then you go out in the indirect services. This is where majority of the Ugandan companies can be able to participate in. Again, looking at the legal framework, the support that has been given to Ugandan entities. And if those, if there is no such a Ugandan company for any service, at the next level, Ugandan company and a foreign company to offer services that are not available in Uganda. But also at the third level, where they realize that we can't find even a Ugandan company to work with in joint venture, the requirement of the law is that the PAU, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, provides an approval. But at that level, we also go an extra mile to say that even if a company is not able to come in as a JV with a Ugandan company, there could be opportunities for subcontracting, and that is emphasized in that approval. The ring-fence services I've talked about. Another opportunity within the laws, the regulations, is the 10% to national content in the total bid evaluation. This is something that we have as an opportunity from the law. For as long as you involve yourself in the bidding, you define your employment, your training, proposals, how you're going to use Ugandan goods and services, the reduction of the scope of work by breaking down the contracts in such a way that we reduce on the scope and make them smaller and affordable to Ugandan companies. That is also a requirement of the law that industry needs to comply with. Payment terms that are more frequent with short durations, to ensure that there is sustainability in the delivery of these operations, because many times financing are a challenge. So within the legal framework, one has the right to ensure that they get these short-term, the frequency in payments are made in a short duration of time. Then another key aspect is content is selected. So this is kind of a giveaway within the regulations. There's a 5% price giveaway for as long as there is more national content in the second best bidder. Then requirements for all entities to be registered on the National Supplier Database. This is very key. The law requires that all the companies, whether Ugandan or foreign, that are desirous to work in the oil and gas sector, they must be registered on the National Supplier Database. So these are the requirements of the law, but just to give you a feel on the applicability, how these have been, the impact of the application of these laws in US dollars on procurement, and out of which 52 million US dollars, accounting for 35%, were required by the law. We've been able to achieve this. And this is only on employment, but there are aspects of training. This is only on procurement, but there are aspects of training, employment, technology transfer. The graph up here is only highlighting the trend of the value that has been retained in the country. At Petroleum Authority, we do analyze the trend in terms of how much Ugandans are participating. So you can see this has grown from 0 in 2008 to about 70, over 70% by close of 2020. There are a few areas where you'll see performance or the retention value. For example, in 2017, we had a lot of front-end engineering design studies and being undertaken, and majority of the funds were foreign, so that lowers the percentage of the value that is retained in the country. Now, the graph down here, I talked about the national supplier database being mandatory. Everyone has to register, and if there is any question on how do I supply the oil and gas industry, the first answer is please register on the national supplier database. This has been in place since 2017, and it has grown over the years in terms of registration. In 2017, we had 513 companies registered, but by close of 2020, we have close to 2,000 companies. So this is the trend, and as you can see, the yellow bar or orange bar reflects the number of Ugandan companies, which normally over the years have been over 60%. So the key issue here is, as you think about supplying the oil and gas sector, the national supplier database is the beginning point. It's an online system. It's available on the Petroleum Authority website, and we can be able, can we know, is the company registered, legally registered? Do you pay taxes? Do you honor your social obligations? Do you have bankers? Who are the shareholders? Those things that we again submit when we are going to request for contracts. In terms of capacity building, there are a number of initiatives that are available that have been going on in the sector. We've had trainings with support from the private sector. In this area, government is working closely with the private sector and donor agencies to support. We've worked with the Stanbic Incubator through training and, trying to build the capacity of the companies through mentoring, keeping books of accounts, how to, solicit for financing, how to write competitive bids or proposals, HSE training. And through this program, over 1,700 small and medium enterprises have been running. Together with other government institutions, government agencies, including Ministry of Education, there are lots of programs towards capacity building. We work with Ministry of Internal Affairs on the work permit application systems. We work with Ministry of Lands, Housing on aspects regarding housing in the urban continuous. Every quarter, highlight areas where they fit what HSE policies and how do they conference. This is normally held by PAU. It brings together 400, 600 participants in one go to highlight the opportunities that are available in the sector, what the companies need to do, how they need to prepare for themselves. We highlight the upcoming opportunities. So these are all avenues for understanding how the sector is running. Of course, we've also acquired a $500,000 project funded by the African Development Bank to enhance capacity of the small and medium enterprises, but also create linkages and collaborations between these companies across the ECOP route. So in terms of the opportunities for participation, areas like legal services, freight forwarding, waste management, and the list is long, up to health, safety, and environment. At least these are some of the areas. One would ask that we are seeing a trend going up to 70% participation. These are some of the areas where Ugandan companies have participated. Then in terms of employment and skills development, this matrix is showing us the highest number of predicted jobs by qualification. One wonders, actually many people keep thinking that, and all those complicated things, people in logistics, all around a chain of services. And the main issue here is that you can see at level 4, the studies were at the peak of the project. But this indicates that at level 4, this is where we have degree holders and above. But out of the 160,000, only 6% will be in this category. So the remaining 94% is falling below the degree holders. So the technicians account for 17%. Then the basic entry level, where one needs to know maybe English, how do I have to put on a PPE or personal protective equipment before I access the fields. So this is where the largest number is. This is very key in terms of the approach to skills development and capacity development, because you know that the focus now is majorly at diploma level and less at degree level. Again, about capacity building, formation of the Oil and Gas Trainers Association to ensure that there is quality in training, but also the quantity. Ministry of Education, working with them in collaboration to upgrade the technical and vocational training institutions in the country so that they acquire the international certification. The students that have been churned out of these institutions previously, to Chigumba, accredited to those international standards. So working together between government and the private sector, we have seen a certification of over 4,000 technicians. We have a National Oil and Gas Talent Register that has registered over 3,500 Ugandans that have the skills, that have the basic skills, but also the expertise in oil and gas. And this is mainly to project to the investors the visibility, the availability of these skills in the country. This matrix is indicating some of the areas where one can go if they want to have that certified trade, electricals, plumbing, and scaffolding. They have acquired international certification. These were not in this country before the oil and gas sector, but we are now happy that we have this because industry requires that people are certified to this level. See all doing basic driving, but also heavy goods vehicle driving and health, safety and environment. We can see City and Guilds, American Welding Society, British Safety Council, all coming in to certify these trainings. We also have Sunmaker Energy that is providing a practical training, oil and gas engineering and essentials in oil and gas, but also certified, so that when someone comes out of this institution, they can be able to get absorbed in the industry. Again, looking at the opportunities, oil and gas, what about the rest of the sectors of the economy? Second, trouble to evaluate the oil and gas sector and its relevancy, but also how much it can support in terms of agriculture, the food requirements of the industry, but also going commercial, putting in place storage facilities to support the oil and gas services or operations. Then in terms of housing, the 1 million people that are going to the Albertine Graben, they will require housing at different levels, low, medium, and high. Construction of office facilities, these companies will require the offices to rent, then provision of warehousing facilities where they can keep the equipment and the materials. Then in terms of tourism, of course, we have realized that the oil and gas sector can act as a springboard for the tourism sector to boom through provision of tourist accommodation, hospitality, because the people coming in this country are used to living a good life, so they would want to see all these tourism amenities. So we believe the sector can be able to make this tourism industry even more vibrant. Civil works, a lot of construction works expected. In terms of health, provision of medical emergency response services, medical supplies and logistics, the list is. In addition to, we work together to ensure that we optimize the value that remains in the country. In terms of the community opportunities, the opportunities that are available for the community at the community level, we have done estimations of the quantities of food. For example, this is only an example, but we have the same for logistics about community content or of a camp that takes 23,000 trays of eggs, one reflect that is needed cannot be good. 23,000 trays of eggs. How many farmers can be able to pull this on a monthly basis in the Albertine Graben? So the opportunities have been fully defined, create awareness on together with Ministry of Agriculture to see how we can support the smallholder farmers and communities in the Albertine region to strengthen production services, how we can promote market-oriented production and ability to engage with the market Africa for farmers to improve quality of their products, linking the farmers to the market, but also the big opportunity that comes with Kabale International Airport, not only to bring in equipment, but also to take away, linking the farmers to the regional and the international market. That's a great opportunity. Then other opportunities, provision of local construction materials like bricks, sand, marram, timber, subcontracting for the works, small works, accommodation, hotel facilities, supply of the basics like, office requirements, laundry services, beauty services, and the list is long. The upgrade of the road network.
Excuse me, colleagues and friends, I think because of the necessity of this presentation, can I request for extra 15 minutes, please?
Go ahead and request.
Yes. It's okay. It's okay.
Is permission granted?
Okay. 15 is not enough.
Permission granted.
15 is not enough. 15 is not enough. This is a very important topic.
It's a very, very important topic, I agree.
We give you 30, President.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for that kindness. The upgrade of the road network, like I was saying, in Hoima and Bulisa, presents a great opportunity for the people in the areas to be able to participate in terms of employment, but also opportunities for small and medium enterprises. We also have opportunities for joint ventures through formation of local business associations to fund the livelihood restoration programs that affected persons in the oil and gas sector. These offer opportunities to host communities to learn the best methods of the areas of the oil and gas operation. So whereas some people have been displaced or, taken to other places, they have had the opportunity to be trained to appreciate and come up with sustainable methods of livelihood. Again, at the community level, there are lots of community engagements. Before any operation is done, there are engagements to highlight to people what is going to be done, what are the opportunities, quarterly supplier forums, but also the other people and the companies to be able to prepare. Then the movement of the training programs closer to the branch in Hoima and another branch. They have a branch in Hoima where they support welder training, and this is majorly targeted for the communities that are around. Been put up in Pakwachi by Solid Rock Life and Business to be able to train in different clinical fields, but also the people that are there so that they take up this opportunity. Priority in employment, especially at the basic and the less skills, and all those that are less, that require less change, especially for the comprehensive capacity building initiatives to get. The next mitigation plan is upgrading or establishing training institutions with accredited programs, because that is our major problem. The training institutions are available, the training has been happening, but accreditation, because that is the name, that is the language that industry really understands. Then reskilling of the trainers to upgrade their skills. They train, they are very good at delivering, say, the engineering programs, and the other technical programs, but they need to reskill and appreciate the needs of the oil and gas sector so that they can transfer these skills to the people they are training. Then limited technical and financial capacity for the local enterprises to adequately compete in the contracting and procurement process. That capacity really happens. We have seen cases where not able and they have been able to lose. They have actually lost some of the best contracts that they can do because the technical capacity to put together and deliver. Continue with the supplier development engagements where feedback is given, but also SMEs are skilled on how to be able to broker relations and bridge the gap on technical and financial capacity requirements. This is ongoing. We've discussed with a number of financial institutions. They have established packages where they can provide, say, invoice financing. They can be able to look into their financing requirements and provide the money. Then, of course, the long-term aspect, establishment of the Industry Enhancement Center as a part of incubation of the companies, but also the local content fund to deal with the financing challenge. The last challenge here is the high-end international certification requirements. This is industry practice, like I already noted. Before you present your equipment to do any work, it has to be inspected, it has to be certified, it has to be, within a given time of, lifetime that the equipment has been, but also the ISO requirements. So here the mitigation plan is to continue the promotion of joint ventures so that there can be information flow, but also technology transfer. He speaks to the areas of conclusion. Okay, maybe I can finish this slide, then he comes in.
Go ahead with that. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. The development phase can supply manufacturing to also the National Oil and Gas Talent Register that have been put in place to increase the visibility of competent Ugandans to participate in the oil and gas sector need to be embraced so that we can be able to benefit from this sector. A number of areas of goods and services provision have been ring-fenced. The 16 categories, let's take advantage. Ugandans encouraged to embrace partnerships with the foreign players to break barriers of financial and technical capacity, among others, through collaboration. This is something that we can deal with. There is a lot of information that we can share, but within the limited time, this is all we are able to present here. But for more information, please visit our website for the opportunities and other related publications. Thank you very much for listening and for your kindness in giving us extra time. Back to you, Edie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And since I'm coming in to conclude, I think my popularity may not be so high since we had been given the opportunity to extend for half an hour. We wish we had known this early. But as a way of conclusion, first of all, I was informed that when I was opening, there's a part where I was not so audible. And it was about the magnitude of what we are talking about. The Tilenga project is over $4 billion. Kingfisher project is over $3 billion. The refinery is about close to $4 billion. And the export pipeline is $3.5 billion. I did say that about 15 years ago, the biggest projects in this country, or 20 years ago, were roads. And the roads were around $50 million, $100 million. And somebody can come in and say, well, there's a time value of money. But even then like 10, 12 years ago, this project called Bujagali came in. And it was worth about $800 million and definitely exceeded any other project that had been done. Then about 6, 7 years ago, the Karuma project came in and it's about $1.6 billion. Karuma is the biggest project in this country. Now, each one of these oil projects, Tilenga, 4 billion, Kingfisher, 3 billion, refinery, 4 billion or less, and then the export pipeline, 3.5 billion, are all bigger than the biggest project this country has ever seen or has ever undertaken. So, and these 4 projects are happening at the same time. And as my colleague said, there are also many other support projects like the airport, like those 700 kilometers of roads, you get to know that there are some 5-star hotels that are now being built in Uganda, and so on and so on. This is the magnitude of what we are talking about. In all fairness, I don't think there is somebody who is honest in this country who can say, I know what is coming in this country. I would doubt the honesty of that person. Therefore, what we are talking about is significant. Those are some of the opportunities, and we all have to stand at attention and really see what we can do to benefit from this. I'd also like to share with you that one of the challenges other countries have had, they have been focused on the first day of production of oil. This has been the biggest blunder, because as you can hear, between now and the first production of oil, a lot of water would have gone under the bridge. Construction of infrastructure over 15, who says, when will the first oil come out of the ground? I'm sorry to say this, and I hope I won't hurt anyone, but that is the position. Because when you see all this value that this country can benefit from, we have some economists who are modeling, and it's looking like if it is well handled and very well handled, it could easily be more valuable than the sale of the crude. But this needs to be focused on. And many of the countries we have been benchmarking with, they will tell you they started national content 20 years after they had started producing oil, others 10 years after they had started, and clearly a lot of water had gone under the bridge. So Uganda is privileged to have started this at this time. The other aspect is that you recall the areas of regulation that I presented, about 8. This presentation has been about only one of them. And so we have the opportunity to present the other 7, but I'm not sure they will be as popular as this one, because this one was talking about opportunities and challenges. My concluding slide is to, of course, thank you very much for having invited the Petroleum Authority of Uganda to talk to you, and thank you for allowing us extra time. And I would like, together with your partners, are most welcome to contribute ideas on how our country and its people can benefit from these very significant opportunities. Your participation is very welcome. I thank you very much for having given the Petroleum Authority the opportunity. And Mr. President, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I think it was worthwhile, ladies and gentlemen, to extend the time. Everybody has benefited. I would like to be selfish a bit here to welcome one person, and this is my boss, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, Vice Chancellor, Makerere University. You are most welcome, and is interested in joining Rotary Club of Muyenga. You are most welcome. So members, I would like now to request President Joseph Kasozi to handle for us question and answer session. Over to you,
Thank you very much, President. I've been going through the charts, and I want to thank the presenters, especially Mr. Anas Ruhondo, and he has answered most of them. So in the chat room, there are only a few. So what we are going to do, I'm going to try to read out those ones that I think have not been answered, and then we shall have some few hands, and then I think, President, we shall be good to go. I don't know, President, you might request for more time.
I think
now, now the questions that have not been directly answered in the chat, we have one which was talking about how agriculture is going to be boosted and protected because of the rising shilling, and everybody will be running into the oil sector. Was about employment, that how can the authority ensure that employment opportunities are done fairly without segregations against the other Ugandans. Then the other one was how will the oil enhance economic growth, and which will enhance import substitution. I think you, Mr. Lubondo, you can start off with those ones as I also summarize the others.
Thank you very much for those questions. Actually, the reason I had not answered them, I thought the presentation was actually clearing some of them. I can emphasize on agriculture, the policy requires that the revenues from oil are used to build durable capacity in the country. And this means funding agriculture programs so that the country's agriculture is enhanced instead of being reduced. Secondly, even before the oil comes up, I think my colleague did present the efforts in agriculture. The farmers in the Albertine Graben now are very different from the farmers they were 5 years ago. I know that in Ulisa, which is a dry place, they have introduced high-yielding cassava, and the people at least are producing much more cassava than they used to produce. I know that Stanbic Bank, working with the Pure Grow, a food export company, and Pure Grow supplies food to many supermarkets in Kampala, have picked up us to grow quality food in preparation to supply the camps. When they are ready, they have started supplying. I think now they get 1 truck of high quality foods from Kampala as they wait for the camps to come up. The intention is that program is going to continue growing, and actually the target is for that incubator to work with the relevant staff so that the first aeroplane that lands in Kabale with equipment goes back with foodstuffs in that area. So the aspect of agriculture being affected by oil and gas is something behind Uganda. How can employment be done so that there is no favoritism? Employment in the oil and gas sector is being done without favoritism. If you know people who have applied to join the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, if you know the process they go through, they are all satisfied that those who are taken on merit, and even those who don't succeed, they come back and say, I didn't succeed, but I was just like, and I'm sure there are some businessmen here who know it more than myself. Serious businessmen and the type of business people that we're now getting into Uganda, you know how much they value talent and ability. I think they are not about to start hiring people who are not going to deliver on their objectives. So that's another aspect I can assure you of. We are relying on the private sector to do that, but we also do regulation. We need to find anything like that, engage and participate. My colleague did present the National Oil and Gas Talent Register, which is an open system. People register there, and companies are beginning to go on there to first of all show their opportunity. Those people on that list apply. This talent register is now having over 3,000 people on it. And it has about, I think, 15 to 20 employers. So it has an aspect of people who look for workers. It also has an aspect of people who are looking to ensure that employment is done well without segregation. But we are welcome to opinions where you see, and then we will tell you what we have of the country. I'm sure we have. We need to defocus from thinking that this country will benefit from oil when production starts coming out of the ground. For me, that's the biggest aspect. And it has been recognized now, and a lot of things are being done about it. In fact, some have even gone to the Middle East as they wait for activities here to start. That's a good beginning. Now, the other enterprises here, which supply the oil and gas companies, these companies are now international. You will agree with me that if any company goes anywhere in the world and says, I have been working for Total, the aspect of quality will not be questioned. And you know that the biggest challenge our enterprises have here is being rubbished for not having the standards and whatever. We are going to have a number of companies here that are going to benefit from that experience, and they will go international. So that aspect, those are aspects that are going to contribute to the economy significantly, and the country has done very well to try and benefit from them before oil comes out of the ground. Now, oil coming out, so for the company them, and we respect them for that because they are, we want out in the benefits this period refinery, they will not build another Muyenga field again. So once they pass, they will not come again. And so I think with adequately addressing those things, those aspects, the oil and gas sector is going to benefit the economy tremendously. And I can say that with confidence. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. President Kasozi, you have other questions? I also picked some actually in the chat room. Do you have other questions? President Joseph?
I see a hand there of Rotarian Oketa. Could you please ask your question?
Thank you, excellent presentation. I come from Noya district. We also have the oil wells part of the Muyenga, but what NP, National Petroleum Authority, has presented, when you apply for a bank loan and you you say Uganda Development Bank that Petroleum Authority and our local content, we need loans to put up hotels, the bank still takes you through the commercial bank's procedures. You have to have foreclosure value at this. The banks in Uganda are aware of what you are presenting, because the requirement they present is way above a business model if oil is coming and business is going to boom. Thank you.
Okay, is there another one?
And then maybe secondly, if there's no other question, I expected there was a study on the local content, and now we can improve it this time around, because I was in Pakwach throughout the drilling process. Thank you.
Okay, do I answer those or do I take another one or two?
The other one is, I think I'll read this one. It is on the first question that he says, I wish to add that there's a syndrome called the Dutch disease, which has been suffered by most oil and gas producing countries, where other sectors of the economy collapse because focus is directly on oil and gas, leaving the other sectors lacking capacity and revenue. We are adapting the Norway example, where revenues from oil and gas are used to boost the other economies in order to prevent the, I think this is a response. Someone is responding. But then there's another question about protection of the fauna and flora. How has this been done?
Okay, if I can go.
Yes, please.
Please, you can go. Just a few minutes and then we shall be done.
One of the challenges that was
I think that's the last question.
Yeah, this will be the last question.
Yes.
One of the challenges that was identified resources for entrepreneurs to be able to participate. And efforts have been made with the financial institutions to see what options they can do to make it easier. And there are some aspects they are going into. I'll ask Betty Namugu to come in very briefly to say what areas have been done. The challenge, though, is that some people think that if you are going to get, the interest rates are very high and those need to come down. But there are also some standards that banks want before they give somebody their money. We all need to be aware that despite this opportunity being there, some of those standards have to remain. Companies, and that they therefore had to put some standards in who gets that money and how they return it. And I can assure you, that fund grew and grew and grew and grew, and the borrowers were very few, simply because of those other. To just come in quickly and say what has been done on the financial aspects so far. There are some examples. Betty, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I think the long-term approach that we are taking to addressing the financing problem is the establishment of the local content fund. This is being spearheaded by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, of course, working with Petroleum Authority, and we believe that this is going to support the aspects of financing, being able to acquire equipment, but also being able to finance off the contracts. That is the long being done right now. We are in discussion with the different financing institutions. I note that the bank referred to, Uganda Development Bank, has not come into the discussion yet, but we're in discussion with Stanbic Bank, DFCU, to ensure that they can avail financing packages for the oil and gas. And if we can take the initiative to approach these banks, they will actually be able to highlight some of these opportunities. So that's what I can add as of now. Thank you, Edie.
Okay, very good. On local content, somebody asked that they expected to hear what has been done. It was not put in detail, but my colleague presented what has been achieved so far in terms of the amount of money that has been able to go to Ugandans, the amount of work that Ugandans have done, and that's what we're doing so far. And we know that in the previous investments of close to $4 billion, Uganda was able to retain about 30%. And we are now working for the next level to try and get more, because there's more money, a higher percentage. The presenter did not have opportunity to go into the specific aspects of how that 30% had been arrived at, largely because of time. And we are welcome to come into a more specific arrangement. The Dutch disease, as you said correctly, somebody was responding on my behalf. I thank them very much. And protection of the environment, that was one of the key regulatory areas that we indicated. And if we get onto that, we will have another 1 hour. But I would like to inform you that Uganda was privileged, because by the time the oil and gas story came to Uganda, internationally, the environment movement was already on. So even if Uganda wanted to spoil its environment, the international community would not allow it. But secondly, there was already a very elaborate process of environmental handling in the country. This aspect of environmental and social impact assessments was already in place and running. And so all the activities of the oil and gas sector so far have been subjected to environmental impact assessments. And this has helped. So all the activities, even if they are setting up a camp, the National Environment Management Authority has to give them clearance, and they have to present certain things. And they have, who have been to the Alberton Graben, you know that areas which were drilled in 5-6 years ago, when you go there, you can't even find where they drilled. Whereas at the time they were drilling, it was like a factory in the place. The requirements are so stringent that the companies are required to clear up, change the soil, and even plant the plants of that area that they found there. So when you go there, you don't find any indication that activity, that is already happening. This is going to continue. And we have to be aware that these concerns, like when you try and quote Nigeria, we usually don't want to quote negatively on our sister countries. But when Nigeria started producing oil, these aspects of environment were even not live in the world. So no one was talking about them. It's just that when those standards came up, the thing had gone. And many other countries have unfortunate environment considerations. But as I say, our members should not worry about that, because we are even now going ahead to put in place an oil spill contingency plan to address any spills that may happen. Dutch disease, yeah, that was an answer. But I want to say that the frameworks that the country has put in place, the early preparation of best practice that I informed you about earlier, have reduced significantly any chance of this country having a Dutch disease. The other aspect of a Dutch disease, of course, comes on to how the money is used. And I must say that I am not the one responsible for distributing how the money is. It is the finance through Parliament. But I am extremely expectant that if we grab all these opportunities before oil comes out of the ground, those aspects of the monies that will come on at sale time will not affect the strength the country would have built at that time. Thank you very much. I submit.
Thank you very much, E.D. Ernest. Obviously, even me, what I was worried about is actually the Dutch disease. In economics, that's what we call the resource movement effect. Such